Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And tonight we were supposed to have Scott C1 with us and be taking live calls, but Scott seems to not be answering my phone or his phone. I don't know what's going on, so we're just going to have my cutie patootie Robert fill in with me tonight, and we do have a few things we're going to cover. Okie dokie. For those that are just coming in, we do not know what's going on with Scott this evening. He has read my messages, and he is not answering me. I do not know what's going on, so I apologize. And we are just going to go for the 2 points. Got my buddy here, Robert Papino, with me tonight, and we're going to cover a few subjects. How are you doing tonight, cutie patootie?
I am doing very well, BB. I'm sorry, you guys. I know I'm a poor substitute, but I'll try and do my best. You know, I try and follow all this information as best as I can on a daily basis. You know, I understand that we're all looking for the same answers. You know, and we kind of, you know, we just kind of go. We just kind of feed each other and do the best that we can. But I'm glad to be here with you as always, my dear.
Well, I don't think that this is a competition. I mean, we're counting down the last days on this planet, and I think that we need more love than we do hate. So I'm not going to get into the hate thing. I'll love you, everybody, anyways, regardless. You can call me what you want. I love you.
And I love you back, sweetheart. I really do.
Thank
you know, and that's what it's all about. It's about sharing of information and just trying to awaken more people, right? I mean, you know,
yeah.
I try to do my part just as like you do your part, like everybody does the part, you know. Some people put a lot more effort into it, like yourself, and other people who are out there just grinding at this on a daily basis, you know, and you know what, and we were talking earlier before we went live, you know, what's so disheartening is that there's all this inner fighting. Why should there be any inner fighting when we're trying to get to the reality of things, the truth, to wake everybody up and say, hey, by the way, these things are happening. You're being misled by the propaganda mainstream press who have lured you away from the reality into all the political nonsense, the theater that they've created in order to keep this game going as long as they can until, you know, that moment of truth arrives in our sky and we're all looking at it going, oh, man, you know, what is going on? And this is one of the things I used to talk about a lot, Badbaby, when I was doing my show. It's like, it's not so much the fact that you know, this binary system is here in our, you know, inner solar system. Is the fact that what is how is everybody going to react? How are they going to behave? Are they going? Is this going to turn into a Mad Max society? Are we going to unite? So. Yeah.
We do have a caller from North Carolina. Let's see who this is. West North Carolina. Hello. Welcome to the show.
Hi. Apparently, it's me. This is Chris. Huggy Bear.
Oh, okay, honey. Are you losing audio?
How about now? Is it any better now?
Oh yeah, we can hear you, but you in the chat you kept saying you couldn't hear.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I've got so much security on my browsers that I had to go back and add all kind of loud flash and this and that, and it's become extremely irritating. But sometimes you got to do what you got to do.
How are you doing? Have you figured out where you're going to relocate?
No.
Have you?
No, that's why I'm calling in. I have nobody to talk to about this. So the only DI I know is Badbaby. I don't know anybody else who. Nobody. No. You know, when I was growing up all my life, adulthood, the whole bit, teens, adult, if I said something was going on, people listened from family, friends, and neighbors everywhere we ever lived. But not anymore. I can't get it started where the X marks in the sky with chemtrails. I went several states. I couldn't get anybody's attention. Nobody's seen it. Huge X marks. How do you miss it? You know what I mean? Well, by
Yeah.
2013, and I knew there was something going. I was very lucky. Alfred Weber, he contacted me about it, and he did a segment on it for like an hour and a half long, mass mind control chemtrails and all that. And he was kind enough to tell me certain things about gang stalking and all that. And I'm like Badbaby. I'm a widow, and before my husband was pronounced dead of shock trauma,
I'm sorry
he
to
did.
hear that.
Yeah, well, I was robbed of millions. The fastest takeover, hit me, and it went straight through Wall Street.
They targeted her pretty heavily because
Oh, yeah.
she wanted to expose what they had done to her husband, and he was in the military, and if you want to share your story, we'll be more than glad.
They had equipment that was going to blow, and they knew about it for 2 days, and it was blowing it was busting at the seams. Well, none of them wanted to turn it off. The cowards, dozens of them, including supervisors and what have you, and project managers and all. Well, my husband was like a mile and a half away in his pickup truck. They called him on the radio. He hadn't been on that job site in over 3 weeks. And so, if you've seen him, you'd ask where I was, and vice versa. I knew him from the time I was 4.5. He lived right behind me, and there was never a time in our life where we didn't live about a block away, except when he was in the military over in Nam. Other than that, we were always, that couple always together. And so when
which is a beautiful thing, by the way.
Oh God,
it's an incredible thing.
Yes, it was. I mean, we only had 2 stupid little arguments, and we laughed about it. We just got along that good. We could finish each other's sentences. I mean, and he knew. He started right before the accident. And it was no accident. They sent him to his death. They called him on the radio. He comes over, and he was the kind of guy. He was a hard worker. He did his job and everybody else's if it meant, because he would say to me, "These guys are going to get me killed, man." And I knew everything about the job because he talked about it 24/7 with me, and I was open to it. And we spent our weekends together. You know what I mean? We were the ones at the bar on a Friday night having a beer, and then we, as we got older, we got home. But we were always in West Virginia. We had land up there in a cabin for 24.5 years, and no electricity. Put that fire on, the deer would come out. He would work so hard up there, and he loved it. He loved it. To him, a good time was fishing. The nature.
So this was the military, right, honey?
Well, it was a government installation, and it went through Wall Street. I know. I fought them for 10 years. My evidence was 99% through OSHA proven, with almost 7-week investigation, 24/7. With they taped it off, and it was all their fault. It was their fault. What they did is they told them to go over and turn the equipment off, and it was really loud. Ingleston Rams running. They weren't supposed to. They were supposed to have these ear things on. They didn't, and they all went running behind the mound. When he went over to turn it off, 550 gallons of diesel oil blew straight through them, and along with a big metal arm, and nobody would touch them. And first paramedic group came from on site. It was that big and big site, and they were told not to touch them. Second group comes, they were told not to touch them. By now, there's a guy come. It took him a long time to come down off a big crane, huge crane. He's seen the whole thing. He was working for a company. He didn't care. He busted through the place. He came on site. Man, he cussed. Oh my God, he ripped them apart. And he was the one that ended up holding my husband, and he was still talking. Matter of fact, he was the one that finally, 45 minutes later, called shock trauma. So it took them quite a while to show up. And when they got there, shock trauma went into shock that he was still alive. And he told them, "Be careful how you pick me up. My insides are hanging out in the back." He
Wow.
just wanted He just wanted someone to hold his hand. He had his arm up the whole time, and he wanted someone just to hold his hand. And they were all told not to touch him.
What was the reasoning why they didn't want anybody to touch him? By the way.
A whistleblower down there who to this day I will protect because the person might have a family. Told me if I ever said who he was, he would lie because of his family. He said they didn't want to get their hands dirty, and he didn't mean the ill. They didn't want to get involved. They were told not to get their hands dirty on this one. There were big, huge government contractors there, and this went straight through Wall Street for years, and they hired little me. I was all by myself, 5'2". They depositioned me day one, their law firm. I didn't know who they really were yet, and they 30-year experience were in tears and told me and the other side that it wouldn't matter who I got in front of in this country. Nobody would turn me down. They were worth trillions, and it was their fault. OSHA proven. I met the director, and they ended up hiring.
And because you spoke out and stood up and tried to fight these monsters, they targeted you, correct?
And yes, and I called out every lawyer I had. They were selling me out. They were blackmailed. They were scared, and and I thought I finally got the right one, but I caught him dead up with the other side. He sold me out. I seen it. I witnessed it on the 16th floor, looking at out the window, and I could see them on a conference table when they said, "Don't worry, she's going to be destroyed." Now, they were one of the top 10 in the country, and they were right out of D.C. So here I sit. I even donated 3 days after he died. I donated because, see, when he was alive for almost 5 days on a 1 to 3% chance, and the psyopers were there day one. Remind me to tell you about the gurney, and the gurney that got him off the helicopter and in shock trauma. When the doctor wouldn't let him go, and we had no living will, and we were talking about it, but you don't think of that stuff, not a living will. You just don't think that way. You don't want to sit around and say, well, it just wasn't on our mind. We had others, I mean, we weren't rich or anything. We were hardworking, middle class, and because I didn't have a living will, the shock trauma head doctor got to keep him alive for 5 days and guinea pigged him on down the road. Sadly, made millions. I did confront him years later. He didn't care. He was so arrogant. Get her out of here. That's what he said. So, yeah. I went to,
They really are.
Yeah, they are.
My heart goes out to you, honey. I know exactly, and and they knew darn well that they were going to destroy your life by targeting you. And Robert, she goes through all the same things I go through.
Yeah.
The gang stalking, the radiation. I couldn't tell you how many times this lady has moved from state to state trying to get away from these monsters. And you can't get away from it, can you, Huggy Bear?
No, you cannot. I've tried living around really decent, good people in Florida to out in the mountains, the foothills. They're way up 3 acres, way up high on a hill with my own private road. No, you cannot get away from them at all. And I mean, I've had the big tough guys.
People don't understand that, Huggy Bear. They all say to me, "Bad baby, move. It's your neighbors. Get away from there."
Yeah.
I'm not going to put myself through all that trauma of packing up half of my crap and losing half of my crap and moving across the country just to have all new perps on me. And I know who my perps are now. I know who to watch out for.
You go, the stress is going. I've learned stress, number one killer, and and the money you're running out every time, and you lose, and you get robbed and perped left and right, and you know what? But I was lucky that everywhere I went, I had detectives that would sniff me out, and when they'd find the story out, they'd come to me and tell me, "We're with you. We got your back." They were all like Christians, and I could go to their church, and they would filter kind of like Nation of Traitor kind of messages in the church sermons, and they had devices where nobody could hear, and they did try to stop it. My hand to God, I witnessed State Department They tried. Another one was a high-level former New York State investigator, along with 4 or 5 others. And they, in front of me, said, "We're going to stop this." They flipped them phones open. I can't tell you what they were saying. And they said, "We can stop most of it." Well, later on down the road, they said they were lied to. They were also lied to about these weapons. They were lied to about non-lethals. They didn't know they were going to be used on the general population, especially women.
Right.
And they felt
I even
terror.
know somebody that worked in the lab on these weapons in New York City. And when she found out they were using them on American citizens, she was outraged and said, "I'm not going to stand for this. I'm going to expose it." So you know what they did? They fired her and they targeted her.
Exactly.
She gets microwaved horribly. In fact, she's crippled right now and on a cane.
Yeah. I'm getting there. I've got a cane myself. It's been tough. I don't know how
your body can only take so much, right, Huggy Bear?
That's right. Yes, and
I mean, how many years can they microwave us?
Right.
And
especially
our
at
body
nighttime.
just gives out.
Right. Especially at night, and especially in the morning if I want to go somewhere. And I mean, when I have to go somewhere like a doctor or just a grocery store, I pay hell to get there. But I hold my head up, and I know that it's not everybody. And every state I've been in, every lawyer, every judge, every detectives, they all know, and they have my back. And I had one of the best psychologists that was in charge of the Baltimore City Penitentiary, and every cop, every guard, every prisoner down there. She had her big office with a big chair, and she took care of me after he died all them years during that case. And they can argue with her on my mentality because they did try that. They do it to all of us. COINTELPRO, like they couldn't. They just can't do it with me. I everywhere I lived. By the time I got to Florida, because I was told, listen, these people said, look, Jehovah will be with you in your dying bed. And they were so sorry. They said, look, everybody in this country was lied to about this. They had their heads down. They were lied to.
I had police officers telling me that, under the table that they would help me and then come back and tell me to my face secretly outside, "I'm sorry, I can't help you because if I try to help you, what they're doing to you, they'll do to me," So I totally understand.
I do too.
I know the last time I spoke with you, I recommended that you check out those cabins at the Jim Baker show. Did you ever check that out?
I did. I did. I'm just like a couple grand short of it. I wish I could, because I'm running out of money. I could live near there, but not right there. And it is a very secluded, very nice place, but I can't, I can get near.
Why don't you down and write a letter to Lori Baker and explain your situation, because they always talk about helping widows and orphans, and she has Lori's house where she's taken in all these unwed mothers and to prevent girls from having abortions. Sit down and write Lori a letter, and maybe they can work something out to help you out.
I will do that. Thank you for that tip. The reason I'm calling in, I've been aware of all this since 2013 when I was filming the Air Stalkers who, let me tell you what this country does to their widows. After they robbed me blind and the justice was, heartbreaking, with the yellow gurney, they had it propped up behind one house for 3 years while I tried to get out of there, revving trucks in and out of my driveway, pulling pickup trucks up with ladders during the day, breaking and stealing everything. Throwing snakes over my privacy fence, but they had the yellow gurney behind my house, and at midnight they would have rituals. I can't make that up. My hair stood up the first time, and they literally, they did. You too, yeah. They really are my hand to God.
Yeah,
when you read online, yes, they are.
Think
when you
about
read
it,
that,
Huggy Bear. No person in their right mind, no decent person, would do this to somebody. I don't care what you may have done or I may have done in our past. No one could have never done anything that would allow someone to do these horrendous things to us. I mean, this is we may as well be in World War II in a concentration camp. Am I right?
There's 3. Yes, go 3. I was a historian, and I went back to college, and I made Dean's Honors and Phi Theta Kappa for years up until '06 during the lawsuit, as this was coming down on me. And I mean, they did it right in the town. But this is where the good cops came to me at night and said, look, we were all fired in one fell swoop. I mean, and they said this went on all over the country, and by 2006, they were all replaced with those that could do this.
Right.
And to be in place, yeah. And at
That's
that time, I didn't know.
The guy that was going to help me told me you either go along or they get rid of you.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And the same with the doctors. You know, I mean, when they approach doctors to get you committed or whatever, I've actually had targets tell me that they've had doctors write on a piece of paper, I don't want to be in the middle of this. Please find another doctor.
Well, I had the papers, the targeting papers, and they do three things. They have goals. The first one is to come at you with psychotronics. They want you emotionally, mentally unstable, so you can't think straight. And I talk to TIs that are, it's sad. You know, some of them are goners. It's so sad. And he's mostly female.
You need to send me an email. You've got my email address.
Yeah.
Send me out an email, and I'm going to schedule you to do an interview about your story on Deep State Blues.
I would love for you to, because also I'd love to tell your listeners the true history of our country and what went wrong. It's shocking.
Right. Well, I'm booked up on Deep State Blues till the 20th, but I will I'll book you for the following week.
Would you be so kind?
You know, and I put on there that we're going to go over targeting stories.
Okay. What's your email? Do you give out your email address on here?
Yeah, I give it out.
What is
it's
it?
DOC.
That's right.
1955.
At
netzero.net.
I'm at netzero.net. Okay, thank you. And I'm seeing my
ZERO.net.
Okay, thank you, because I changed computers and then it's a mess, my internet.
That's all right. Just shoot me out an email, put in subject RE radio show, and then I will book you because
thank you.
I don't know, Robert, you think I should tell them? I may as well tell everybody that I might not be coming back out here after the end of August.
Well, I think it's a good idea. You should let your audience know what's going on.
So, okay, here's my bad news, you guys. I can't believe I'm laughing about it.
Well, you take it with a grain of salt, right?
I guess. I had some bad news the other day. I went in and I've been having a lot of pain and swelling in my jaw, and I thought it was from being microwaved, and probably was. I don't know, but I have a bad infection in my jawbone, and I'm going to have surgery, you guys. And after they do the surgery, I won't be able to do my shows for 8 to 12 weeks until it heals. So I won't be able to talk. And I know you guys know that I'm scheduled to be a guest speaker at the Thrive conference with Steve Olson. So I blew the doctor's mind. I told him, I said, well, he said, you know, the infection isn't good for me. It could be dangerous. And he wanted me to have it done as soon as possible. He said, so how soon do you think we can do this? And I said, how does the beginning of September sound? And he said, that soon? And I said, well, I got to be able to talk for a couple months. I just have to be. I have all these shows scheduled, and, you know, I have a conference that I have to go to, and I just have to be able to speak. And I said, I'll do it at the beginning of September. So he wrote me a prescription for an antibiotic, and he said, I'll give you an antibiotic right now, but don't think I'm going to put you on an antibiotic from now till September. So I would appreciate if you guys all pray for me that I'll be okay up to then. But I know I will be, because I know I have God's hand on me. But after the beginning of September, you guys, I won't be out here for about 12 weeks. What I thought I would do is going through my archives and play some archive shows for you. And Steve, he's like, oh, my God, I want a second opinion. This is too much. He can't deal with it. So what I'm going to do with him and Deep State Blues is I'm going to let him take some of my recordings and alter them, take the beginning off where it says Fight for Freedom Radio, and he can do an intro and maybe fill in with some of my recordings until I come back. I haven't told him that yet, but maybe that'll calm him down a little bit. But anyways, I'm a little bit afraid, you guys. I
Don't be afraid.
Was here.
I told you that earlier. Don't be afraid. You got nothing to fear. Nothing. Zero.
I know. It's just that I don't like going through this stuff without my husband being around, and I'm sure Huggy Bear knows how that is.
Do you have someone that'll be there with you or for you when you get home?
No, I haven't thought that far ahead. I just got this news a couple days ago.
Well, do you still have your dog?
I just know it's from being radiated because I get up in the morning and my whole face is burned from radiation. So
sure.
You just know. And if they are responsible for what's going on, then shame on them.
You don't realize how pure evil they are until you go up, when they come at you, and it's just nonstop, never stop, and they are evil. I just don't know any other word, pure evil.
Yeah, well, the day that I went to the doctor's, I was locking the gate, and I got in my truck, and my perps across the street were walking down the driveway, and they made the goofy face at me, like, oh, there she goes. And, I don't like driving off, letting them see me drive off, be right there, but what could I do? I had an appointment. So and she was going to her mailbox, By the way, she always tells me I'm mentally ill. But who's the mentally ill one?
Yeah.
Because when I came home and I my mailbox was open and I shut it before I left. When I came home and went over to check my mail, they put a pile of dog shit in front of my mailbox.
PSYOPs. It's also like, believe it or not, it's all based on PSYOPs, but, tell that to us.
It's a mental thing. They want me to think that I'm a piece of crap. Well, you know what? Only a piece of crap would do that to somebody, so whatever.
Exactly. They've helped me realize that I'm so normal, but it also, as a historian, it blew me away. I mean, there were things that I figured out just by being targeted that our country was not what we thought they were, and it was a major disappointment. But I look at it like this, in these last days, I'm glad it's them and not me. I wouldn't want this on my soul at all.
Well, that's one of the things that I tell everybody, if you're not living the right way right now, you better get your act together because, we will, karma will get you.
The reason I called in, I know about what's going to happen a lot. I've researched it overwhelmingly since I'd seen it up there in 2013. As a matter of fact, when I looked out there yesterday morning, or this morning, I could see it taken up the whole sky now. And I have researched like Jim McKinney, astrophysicists, and they have booklets out there on this is what you got to do if you're going to survive, and it's tough. Terrell 03, I joined them. Where they're moving up there to northwestern Arkansas and southern Missouri, and I could go. But I'm not healthy enough. You know what I mean? I had to face that. You get what I mean, Badbaby?
I can relate.
There's no
sister.
way. Oh,
I mean, you get to a point where you just say, well, you know what? Whatever happens, happens. I just can't no more.
Well, my question was, and I don't expect anybody to be able to give me advice, but part of me wants to go, here's what I'm trying to figure out. This is the destroyer. And I've seen it out. It is it's coming between us and the sun. You've had Gil Broussard on here. Hopefully you're it's not going to be good at this time around. So what I'm trying to figure out is, should I head for the hills and give it a shot, go over to Missouri and try? At least I'm around a lot of preppers. Maybe I'm just going to be by myself. And I spoke with Marshall Masters. I joined his group, and he tells you if you're alone, it's not going to happen unless you're really, one of them major, young, healthy,
I really
go-getting
think you'd be
preppers.
best to go to the Jim Baker compound, and I'll tell you why.
So,
Because they have huge generators there, huge generators that they put in. They own the sewer system. They have their own water tower. They have put a huge barn up. They had a man out of California last year donated them 20 cows, and 3 of them were pregnant, and a bull. And they have their own chickens. So and they have fenced it off. They have put up a guard shack that is bulletproof, so that if the country gets in array and under attack, they plan on having their own police force. I think that you would be safest there in that community.
If they would, I mean, I'm short. I'm a bit short.
But you know
because
what? Maybe they would let you do something. They've got all kinds of shops. They got their own little mall there. Maybe they would let you do something. They also have a nursery in Lori's house. Maybe you could go up to the nursery and help out with the children to work off that money.
I love kids. But I can't bend anymore like I used to, and my gait, my walk is, you know what I mean, a bit off.
Well, I think that they would work with you. I really do. And I will keep you in my prayers that they do, but I think you need to get that letter out to Lori and ask them to help you.
I will do that tonight. Thank you. But my question is, I don't know where everybody's at, what level they're at in this room, and I'm assuming they're in here because they're waiting for Scott, which I follow him all the time. Matter of fact, I used to send him pictures, and then one day he wrote me back. He thought I was a perp. I said, no. I wrote him back. I said, I'm friends with Badbaby. We spoke once. I never heard from him again, but I've heard him say he gets a lot of emails. And I'm also a member of WSO, and I follow Steve and Wayne. I think the world of them too, and I've heard over and over again Mr. John Moore, and my question is...
all these people are going to be at the Thrive Conference. Are you familiar with the Thrive Conference?
I've been hearing you guys talk about it. I'd like to know about it, and I'd love to go if I could.
Well, you know what? You don't have to physically go. You can contact Steve and pay half of the price and get a login through the computer so you can watch us live through the computer.
Has he got it over on his site?
Yes.
Information?
Yeah,
Okay, I'll log in.
Site. And he has also, keep watching his YouTube videos that he's putting up towards the end. He tells everybody if you want to go and you can't physically travel, you can join us through the computer.
Okay. All right, thank you. My question is, if anybody wants to tackle it, I would. If not, I respect that. I don't blame anybody at this point. However, my question is, and I have been researching this. I have read documents from thousands of years ago. I've went every direction, biblical. And I grew up. I knew the Bible growing up and all. I went to studied it the whole bit. I was going to be a theologian. Never happened. But my grandparents raised me from birth. They were ministers for 50 years prior to me. So I've got that kind of, but I'm not fanatical. So, But anyway, my question is, if anybody wants to answer it, if not, it's okay. If you were me and you're all alone and you got just enough where you could buy a place over in Missouri and maybe an acre or so, but you're disabled and I don't let this stop me, but it's getting tough, movement wise. If what's coming to this earth, you know what I mean? Do you think it's going to be as bad as maybe I think it's going to be, and that maybe I should just go to Florida and die in my flip flops, walk in the sand, looking at God's oceans, or should I give it a shot and go to Missouri?
That's a tough question, Robert. I'm going to let you answer that.
Okay, well,
that was nice of her.
Well,
funny.
My opinion is this. This is my opinion. I don't want anybody to give up on life because life's a gift from God and it's precious.
Yeah.
So, I look at it this way. It's whatever God wants for us. If he wants us to come home, then we're going to come home. If he wants us to survive this, then we're going to survive it. But, yeah, I understand how you feel because even after the event happens, it's not going to be an easy life. It's going to be a tough life. And not being physical to be able to get out there and, I know because I went for 10 days during the winter. We lost our power here, and I had no water because my power runs the well. So I had to go out to the pond and get buckets of water to flush my toilet. I had to take my bottled water and wash up with it, and not being able to take a bath was very hard. And after 10 days, I mean, it was rough, and I was thinking, man, this is what it's going to be like. And
was this in the winter?
This is really fun, Especially
was it in the winter?
Being able to take a bath thing.
Was this in the winter up there? I know where you're at.
It was in the winter.
Oh, my God.
And, and then I had no furnace, but I did have my wood burner, and I had one generator. And luckily I had about, 7 cans of gas. But when I ran out of gas, my locks were frozen on the barn, and I couldn't get my truck out. And I had no way to go get gas to fill it up. And I looked at my dogs, and I said, this is it. We're checking out. We're going to freeze. And, and I bundled the dogs up with blankets, and I bundled up, and I sat here for a few hours, and I thought, nope, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to let this happen. I said, I'm going to pull my bootstraps up and go out there and fight for our life. So I bundled up, and I went out in the middle of the road and waited for someone to come up the road, and I flagged them down and said, help me.
And did they help you?
It was an elderly old man. He was like in his 80s, and I told him what was going on, and he said, well, we have power down the road. And I said, well, we haven't had power up here for 10 days. And I said, I have no way to get out of here. I can't get my vehicle out. I have no gasoline for the generator, and I need someone to, give me a ride to the gas station or something here. And he said, well, I can't lift cans. I just had open heart surgery. But he went on the next road, and he said there was a guy he knew that could probably help, and he went and got this guy. Lo and behold, this guy comes over here. He knew me.
Oh.
He knew me. He goes, oh, my God. He goes, I was the one who brought your propane tanks here when you first moved in. And he said, that was 28 years ago. And he goes, I can't believe you're still here. I said, yeah, well, only the good die young.
Yeah, that's how I used to hear that. My second question is, does everyone else go through what I do, that seemingly you're the only one that knows what's going on and can see the skies and you know what time it is? And the world, you know what I mean? Does it, everywhere I go, seemingly nobody knows unless they're not talking. I have tried waking people up, and I did wake up my girlfriend and her husband, but other than that, and I had to have pictures and film, but people are just in, I don't know, denial. See, they got them where when they knew that they had Americans, where everything they've seen on CNN or Fox News or whatever, CNN will say, if it's not on CNN, it's not happening. And they really do believe, they've got them brainwashed completely to think that it's global warming. And you can see, like, when I'm in the grocery store, at magazines, everywhere, even in TV, even old shows, if they replay them, kids shows, everything, they've got the chemtrails in the background. And so they're, they've been indoctrinated, you know what I mean? They've been brainwashed. You
know how much they don't want this to get out there? I'll tell you. Usually when you Google Fight for Our Freedom Radio, this window pops right up. The only one that I'm getting right now to pop up is window number 2 with my holistic healing.
Well.
And the thing the thing is, they used to advertise my show on TalkShoe on the front page. Always.
Well.
They aren't advertising it. They're trying to make it where people can't find my window. But that's all right because, that's fine with me because now that I'm hooked up with Steve, I'm getting some of my stuff out there on YouTube, and he's turning Deep State Blues over to me on his webpage. And like I said, I'm getting a lot of information out there on Deep State Blues. Now, I don't know if you guys remember when I interviewed Dawn Hull. She is a photographer out of Washington State, and she has some phenomenal photographs. In fact, I just posted some of her photographs on my Facebook page, and I got a hold of her because she's been very busy with her mother. Her mother's ill, and she just put her mother in a home, and she's moving. I got a hold of her yesterday, and I asked her, I said, Dawn, do you want to do an interview with me on Deep State Blues, and we can get your photos up there? And she said, sure. So we got her booked on the 20th, and if you said you're a member of WSO, you'll be able to go into Deep State Blues and watch that interview. And there'll be a lot of phenomenal photographs there.
I've heard you and Steve and all. I love those when he puts when you two are talking about all this, and he puts it over there, and it does seem to get a lot of positive. He's getting more positive, less perps, less trolls and that, or at least it seems it to me. Because I'm the first one to go down the line, and I'll hit the down button on them so that their comments don't go up. And sometimes I'll leave some comments to them. I mean, I get a little mad, how dare they? Because I'm more concerned with newbies, and they're trying to figure out what's going on. When they start reading them comments, they might not know any better.
Well, Steve told me one day, and he forwards me a lot of emails that he gets about me, and he told me one day, he said, Badbaby, he said, you saved my life, because he did not realize he was being targeted. When I started explaining to him, you're being targeted, dude. You're being microwaved,
But he didn't. That's funny.
He said,
not funny, but
once he realized what was going on, yourself, when you don't understand what's going on, it's hard. And then once you realize how the system works and what targeting is about, at least you know what to look for, and you have a better sense of how to deal with it. And that's why I want to do a couple more interviews about targeting. I started out talking about targeting, and then we moved on to other things, but I'm going to get back into talking about targeting a little bit more again. And he told me the other day, and he sent me a few of these emails where a lot of women have listened to what I talked about on targeting out there, and they're contacting him, and they're saying, oh, my God, I never knew that this is what's happening to me, but I didn't know what it was. And they say, God, I wish I could talk to her. Can you give me your phone number? Well, I don't give my phone number out. I used to do that, and I used to have so many people calling me all hours of the night, and I was getting sleep deprived. And, and then the other thing is, when you listen to everybody else's targeting, it's like you're living it, yours and theirs. So, it becomes overwhelming. I try to do the best I can to help targets, but I have to draw a line for my own health.
Right, I've been there. I just went through 2 different ones that I knew it wasn't going to end well. I tried. I work with at times with Scott Hensler. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he does 3 nights a week blog on all this. He was a former law enforcement. He was a body snatcher, detective kind of guy for years and years. And he got targeted, not quite like us, but like they flew a plane into his roof. And, detectives go through this stuff, Well, I mean, he was up against, he's out getting the bad guys, and they are really creepy. And come to find out, he got targeted real bad, and but he has remained calm. He's got a good background, and he turned minister. And there are so many Americans going to him, going through this now, that he's extremely overwhelmed. He tries to take all their calls. He tries to help them. He'll pass
Right.
someone over to me, and it's just wow what he goes through. And he's
I
one man
actually
band.
had somebody say to me one time, I don't know what. First he said to me, "Oh my God, you've got some people that are doing horrible things to you." And this person was clairvoyant, and I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "And I don't know what it is that you do, but whatever it is, I'm not telling you to stop doing it, but you need to back off on it a little bit because it's very much affecting your health." And I knew exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about I was wearing myself thin.
Well, Scott, I found him online a couple of years ago. I was all by myself down there in the mountains, and he literally saved me. He really did, and he helped me through the psychotronics and all, and
Honey, I don't
and
want
now
you to
I
go
help
to
him help
Florida
others.
and walk on the beach in your flip-flops and wait to die. I don't think that would be the best solution.
Okay, thank you. I
would prefer to
appreciate
see you get into the compound with the Jim Baker show, where there are other Christians and people that are loving and caring. And even if you do survive it, there will be young people there that will take care of the elderly. So that's where you need to be. And if God wants to take you home, he'll take you home. And if he wants you to stay there and survive, then you'll stay there and survive.
Okay, I appreciate that. Because there's a big part of me that, I live with reality as well, and I've done enough, I'm just saying that in my humble opinion, that maybe, I kind of feel like, where's Ground Zero?
I felt the same way, because I'm not in the best health either right now, and look at, I might be going through this surgery in the middle of when this all happens. I don't know, but I felt the same way. But, I actually had, a premonition in a dream, and I kept, after I suffered that 10 days saying, I don't want to live like this, having to take water out of the pond. I don't know if I can physically do this. And actually, I was told in my dream, buck up, little camper, because you're going to be here to help the survivors. And this house is going to be a home for the children that are hurt and suffering. And I was like, whoa. Remember I told you about that, Robert?
Yes, I do. I do remember that.
Yep. I told him about that. I said, and I thought about it, and I thought, that's probably why I got into holistic healing and how to heal your body with spices and natural supplements. And also I was listening to a lot of the Duke and the Doctor and Dr. Oz, and and I thought, wow, that's why I had to learn all this health stuff, because and it was weird too, because the people that are targeting me, I had another dream where, I'm not going to say who they are, but they came to my gate after the disaster, and they held their child up bleeding, begging for me there to help them. And the Lord asked me, my child, would you help them? And I said, yes, I would, even though they've done what they've done to you. And I said, yes, I would help the child. I would help them. Because none of that's going to matter after all this happens. What's going to matter is that we still love each other.
When I was a teenager, I had one of those really super surreal dreams. Like when I got up, my hair was standing up, and it was so real. And it was about what was coming. Like people were running. They were looking over their backs to the south, which I understand is coming in from the south. It's already here, to be honest. But and fireballs and cinders were coming down, and it was very hot, very hot. And I'll never forget it. And I don't know why I had that vision as a teenager, but I never forgot it. And lo and behold, here I am. So
There are a lot of people that are having pathetic dreams and visions right now. But Robert has something to share with us tonight, so let's let him take the floor.
Well, I was just simply going to bring up this, that, and somebody mentioned in the chat that this was old news. I wasn't aware of it being old news. I guess it's about a week old. But there's a senator from Brazil who came out with this information. You guys tell me, what you think about this. But he says, and he said this on the Senate floor in Brazil. And it's pretty amazing. Says, I have received the information from an elected official, I believe, who said NASA, never a straight answer, states that the planet Nibiru is coming towards Earth and the current cycle will be over soon. Now, I don't know what he meant by will be over soon, but he goes on to say, it says the NASA reports say that the planet, and let me just scroll a little further as I'm reading this, says that the NASA report says that the planet changes the gravitational field of the Earth, and with that, 2/3 of humanity will perish. Now he reiterates 2/3 will die of hunger and disease. Now he goes on to say, I passed this on to my advisor as what I think he was meant to say, to do a study to see if this planet Nibiru is really approaching Earth. This was on May 25th, 2017, Brazilian Parliament speech. So this was more than a couple of weeks ago, actually. So I found that very, very interesting that this Brazilian senator would put his butt on the line and put this kind of information forward. That's the thing. When you're dealing with governments, when you're dealing with senators, are they using that as propaganda or as a hoax, or is this guy for real and he's really putting this out there to awaken his people? Because he basically put his butt on the line by saying all this, because whoever his constituents are from whatever sector of Brazil, whatever county of Brazil that he represents, he just put his butt on the line for his re-electoral or reinstatement as a senator, because they could simply elect this guy out. So I found that extremely fascinating. But in my opinion, I found this to be true, because I don't think this guy's pulling any punches. I think he's the real deal, and he's basically making people aware in his country. Hey, you know what? I got some information from NASA that this is what's going on. Now, I guess the second question would be: is NASA pulling this guy's leg, or is NASA pulling the wool over everybody's eyes? That's for everybody to kind of answer on their own. I believe that what he's saying, he absolutely believes, and from all the evidence that I've seen, and I think everybody here on this network has seen, I think it all kind of falls in line of everything that's been happening. I mean, are you kidding? We're having snow. It's in June. What's today? The 9th, right? So we have, 6 inches of hail near the Canyon State, Texas. But where is that heavy snow article I wanted to bring up?
And the hail balls. I mean, the hail balls are like...
They're enormous. They're off the charts. And not to mention the fish that are dying, the earthquakes are uptaking. I heard that there's been activity up at Yellowstone, and they're keeping it hush-hush. And
the geysers are really acting bizarre. There's a lot of stuff that they're not talking about. And you know what I think? And I call it the dog and pony show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think all of this testimony by the FBI director and all this being fired and all that.
Yeah,
I think it's the dog and pony show to distract us from what's going on.
Without a question, it's all theater. There's they're just trying to pull the wool over everybody's eyes as this this whole thing comes to a head. Basically, that's the bottom line. Here, look, widening earthquake spreads to 5 kilometers in Manipur, India. When has anybody heard of any of these things happening within the last 40 years? Spreads 5 kilometers. It's not like this takes 35, 50, 100 years. This is happening within months. Where's everybody's heads at? More snow for the Rockies and Cascadia.
James said that there was going to be war, and that the soldiers were going to look up and they were going to see the planet, and they were going to lay their guns down and go home because they knew that there was no reason to fight anymore.
Right, and what's happening now? There's
let me
skirmishes worldwide. Skirmishes worldwide.
On my holistic healing show next Wednesday, I'm going to talk about near-death experiences. And I have a lady who died for 40 minutes. She's not well because she had no oxygen to her brain for a while, and so it crippled her up, but she's mentally okay. But anyways, I'm hoping that she's going to be well enough to come on and tell us her experience. But I have been listening to a lot of people's testimonies about near-death experiences.
Yes.
And there was one that I listened to the other day that blew me away. And it was of a 10-year-old little boy, and he drowned it. For 40 minutes, he was dead. And when he came back, they said he was going to be brain damaged, which he wasn't. But he did have damage to his lungs and his heart. And he told his mother about, and this one's going to get you, told his mother about what the Lord showed him. He kept calling him the rock and roll guy. He said that he showed him that there was going to be a war. And he said, but Mama, he said, the war isn't the worst thing that's going to happen. He said, there's going to be an attack on our planet by the alien demons, and that they work for Satan and they want to take over this planet. And it was interesting, that really piqued my interest because when I interviewed Stuart Swidlow, he said that there was going to be a fake alien invasion run by the government. Well, that they're satanic. But anyways, what this kid told his mother was that when this planet comes under attack by these alien demons, that they're going to take people and eat them. That's what he said. Now, there was another one that I had listened to by a woman, and I can't remember her name. There's been so many of them that I listened to. But she also talked about the war, the alien invasion, and she said Jesus showed her a pole shift.
Well, and I think you're right. I think there's a multitude of things going on. I think there's the fake invasion, which has been pre-planned by, this breakaway civilization. Excuse me. This breakaway civilization to create chaos and panic. So the money masters who fund this breakaway civilization can contain and maintain control over our society. And I think because basically people are psychic, and our psychic intuitiveness captures the cosmic consciousness of ourselves and beyond. It all leaks in as information through, wakings. What's the word I want to use here? Through waking conscious thought, or through dreams, or through, for the people who are very psychic, through their psychic abilities to pull that in from the ether. But I think all of it's on the table. We just don't know which way it's going to go.
I think chemtrails play a big part in this, and the reason I think that is, and I don't know if you guys remember when I interviewed Tony, the guy that talked about taking the nanoparticulates out of your body. But I interviewed him again on the Deep State Blues through WSO. It's on Steve's WSO page. And when Steve and I interviewed Tony this time, and we just put that posting up a couple days ago, by the way, Tony talked about they don't have to bring us in and put a chip in our hand. That the stuff that they're spraying on us has so much aluminum and metal in it that it's in all of our bodies that it has saturated our food, our water, even we breathe it in, and everybody has this in their bodies. Now, he's the one who made that bucket that he puts a solution in it of the vinegar and borax, and I can't remember all the ingredients. And he puts oil on the top of the water, like a canola oil or something. And then you can put your leg or your arm in there. And we show this bucket on the interview, and we show he puts his arm in, and you can see all this stuff just coming out of his body. And you can see it all coming to the top and sticking to the oil and that. And it's the nanoparticulates is what he's taken out. The same stuff that you see growing out of people's bodies when they have Morgellons. Little long squiggly things. And they're red and green. And anyways, what was interesting, what Tony, and he has done a lot of research. He's actually cut insects open, and I was telling him about a gardener snake that was in my yard that usually they're brown with yellow stripes, but this was green. It was like fluorescent green. And he said that's because it's changing its molecular structure.
Yeah, molecular, yeah.
Yes. And interesting enough, my dog found another one yesterday and bit it in half and threw it across the yard. And I went over and picked it up with the shovel, and it too was fluorescent green. And he had said, man, I would love you to send me one of those snakes so I can, dissect it and that. But he had actually dissected a bee and a spider, and the thing he said about that was the bad thing about all this stuff being in these things is if they bite you, it can affect us. And, and then he said because we have it in our food and everything, we have so much of it built up in our body that it's causing a lot of illnesses. And he also said it's coating our brain. And he said that, we can take this stuff out with this bucket he made, but we'll never get it all out of us. But we will get the majority of the buildup of it out. But he says that he thinks that the main reason they're doing all this is because eventually when they coat your brain with this, they can activate your brain with a frequency and actually control your mind. And I started thinking about, do you remember that kid down in Florida that he started acting really weird and he ran out of the restaurant and then he attacked those two people in the garage and he killed them and he started biting their faces?
I do remember that. Yeah, I do.
Yeah, well, you know what? That kid was interviewed by, what's that psychiatrist? I can't stand him. Oh, the guy who used to work with Oprah Winfrey. I can't think of his name.
I don't know the name.
Help me out
either.
here, you guys.
I don't know the name.
He's the psychiatrist that Oprah Winfrey used to have on all. I can't think of his name.
Dr. Phil?
Dr. Phil. Dr.
Okay.
Phil, thank you. Anyways, Dr. Phil, that was a brain fart there, you guys. Anyways, Dr. Phil interviewed this kid, and it's up on YouTube. And I just happened to come across it the other day, and I was watching it, and Dr. Phil was asking him, do you remember right before you did that, you went to your mother's house and drank a whole bottle of cooking oil? He said, no, I don't remember. He said, I don't remember a lot of it. He said, I don't remember stabbing them people. I don't remember biting their faces. He said, I just don't remember. And I thought, I'm wondering if he was part of the experiment, if they activated his brain and controlled him.
That's
Very
interesting.
likely. We have a caller that has their hand raised, so let's see what they have to say. Welcome to the show, Massachusetts. Do you have a comment or a question for us this evening?
I know. I was just trying to help out with the Dr. Phil.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, thank you. But, yeah, it was Dr. Phil.
Yeah, thanks.
For some reason, I was blocking that out. I don't know why. I could see his face and everything, but that happens to me every once in a while.
Well, you know, Badbaby, one of the other things that has been prevalent in a lot of these is just, let's just call it cannibalistic, zombie-like fits that these people are going through is the bath salts. I mean, there's been a lot of cases.
He didn't do bath salts.
No, I know that. But I'm saying
this kid did not smoke anything. He didn't do any bath salts, and he doesn't know why that all happened to him. And when he started telling Dr. Phil all that, the first thing that came to my mind was, that's exactly what Tony said, that they were going to control people. And, you know that they're experimenting on us all.
Well, no question. Those chemtrails it's a twofold, in my opinion, Badbaby. It's to block out our vision of Planet X. It's to push back the UV, which is A, B, and C, which C should not be penetrating the ground, but it is. And the other part of the equation is what? To chemicalize us all, right? So, hey, let's make everybody sick. Let's get them real sick. And when this thing does come through, they'll be real easy to deal with, real docile-like people. And we'll just, we'll just walk them into the camps. Don't worry about it. We'll take care of you. And everybody in their sheepalized state will be like, okay, we're here, and they're telling them we're going to feed you, and we're going to, give you plenty to drink. And then guess what? You know what? You're going to have to sign this little waiver that, now things have changed in this country, and if you don't go along to get along, well, guess what? You're just, you can't be re-educated, so you're going to have to be eliminated.
Well, that's what Al Cuppett told me. Al Cuppett is the retired Joint Chief of Staff of the Pentagon, and he was 38 years military. And he told me that the camps they're going to trick people into going into the camps. He said, people are going to be destitute, and they're going to say, well, come here, and you'll get a hot shower and a warm meal and a nice bed to sleep in, and, and then they're going to have you, a form of control over you.
That's it.
I think that the whole thing is designed because of the pole shift. I think that the people that don't perish during the pole shift, that survive it, that one of their plans is going to be that they're going to come back up from their dumbs, which I don't think they're going to survive. But this is what they think, that they're going to come back up here with their military crew and be the mop-up crew. That's what they've got the FEMA coffins for. They're going to gather up the bodies, and those that survive, they're going to say, well, come on in here. FEMA's here to help you. And then they're going to activate them with these nanoparticulates in your brain and just make people labor.
Or here's another thought process that I've been kind of pondering over. I mean, if they have enough, think about it. We're 85% water, organic. We're organic material, but we're 85% water. If they have put enough of any kind of metal in your body, how easy is it to to basically electrically execute a thought process in your brain, because they have this advanced weaponry already where they can basically point this, machine at you and make you hear thoughts in your head, right? Well, they can create they can create any kind of scenario with that kind of technology. So, I mean, I don't think it would even come down to that. I think if they were to use this kind of weaponry to basically make everybody docile with all the chemicalization through the aerosols that they've been spraying, and then to activate it with this technology to make you think and act in any way they want because you're hearing certain thoughts and ideas that are not yours but somebody else's. Well, now you're basically, you know, the sheep at the slaughter. So that's also a big possibility.
Robert, this is why it's so important that the general public hears the stories of targeted individuals and finds out about the technology that they have that they've been using on these people. Because let's just face it, folks, a lot of people say, well, I really don't care as long as it's not happening to me. Well, guess what? You're next.
There is a Dr. Pawelek, Pawelec. And through my research, I found this gentleman. He's the late Dr. Pawelek. And he was a former Air Force guy, and he had a company that he had, and he dealt with a lot of high-level people governmentally. And he thought he knew the big wigs, but some people came in one day, and they were extremely high level, very secretive clearance. I mean, it was big. And it turns out they were after, this gentleman was making microchips for animals, you know, farm animals and things like that. But they wanted billions of microchips. Now, this is don't quote me on this, I think it was in the 70s or 80s. And he, in his interview, he gave an interview to this Dr. Greer, Stephen Greer, who I'm not crazy about. But that doesn't mean that who he interviewed, you know, his wife, this gentleman, Mr. Pawelek, he didn't want this released until after his death. And you can see the interview if you want to, you know, just run a Google search for Dr. William Pawelek, Pawelec. And as a matter of fact, I got it on ProjectAvalon.net and various other places. And he talks about the biblical, he didn't know at that time what the biblical remnants meant. And I kind of knew, but I looked up the word remnants again, and it means those that survive, the leftovers, so to speak. Yeah. Now, if you say
those that survive are going to go through tribulation. They're going to go through the hell that they have planned for this planet.
Yeah, that's what I think. I've heard one insider over at SoundCloud say that they all had to be microchipped to go underground in the dumps. And he was offered it, and he said no. And he was scared when I first heard him through BP Earthwatch over at Blog Talk Radio a couple of years. And, you know, they were talking about end times. And so it was riveting. You know, it was like I was just getting into it, too. And so it was
Have you ever seen the movie Revelations on the History Channel?
Oh, yeah. No, I can't say that I have. I actually
you can
read
look it up on YouTube. It's on YouTube.
Yeah. Okay.
Put up, go in your YouTube search bar and put the movie Revelations from the History Channel. And there's two, it'll be on two different windows because it's long. But in that movie, it's like these two guys, they're doing a documentary with this Bible scholar. And then Revelation starts happening. And they're like doing a documentary on the whole thing. Well, what they do is when the country becomes a big mess, they gather all these buses and they trick these people. They tell them, come on, come on down to Louisiana where the new America is, and you'll be able to have food and doctors and blah, blah, blah. And they told all the seniors go on these buses because we're going to have a doctor in each bus in case you need health care, blah, blah, blah. And what they found out, these guys that were documenting, because there was an underground gang of people that were Christians that were fighting against all this, and they took them to a camp at night, and they had these front end loaders, and they were taking body bags and dumping them everywhere, and they were going, "What are they doing?" You want to know what they were doing? All those seniors went to that FEMA camp and were exterminated.
I was even listening. One of the first whistleblowers I had found was Patty Broussard. I've kind of lost my. I think she's kind of lost her way, but originally she was right on it, explaining. She knew everything that was going to happen. She was a contractor with NASA and a former Army. Yeah,
I don't believe in Patty anymore. I think she's a
yeah,
shill.
me either. I just, like I said, I lost.
I just saw some stupid interview where she said she flew up to Nibiru and blew it up. Sucked the energy right out of it.
Lost it. I don't know what happened to her.
And Putin wasn't very happy with her about that.
Well,
what kind of LSD were you on that night?
Can I interject something? Because she was a government contractor, I think she was gotten to, and she suddenly changed her story. And again, this happens all the time. You know, they get too close to the truth, and then they're kind of told to shut up. And she just says, okay, well, I don't want to look like a fool, so I'm just going to change my story, and
but now she acts
make
like
things a little different.
Her
I got
and that other gal. I'm sure.
I got
that. Let's quit calling her a she, because she's really a he.
Oh, that's
well,
right.
I mean, look, I don't want to go there, but the point of the matter, the point of the matter is that she just kind of outed herself, because anybody with two brain cells to rub together has figured it out. She was saying all these things that made sense to all of us. All of a sudden, she changed her story. It's evident. It's evident that she was gotten to, unfortunately.
The same thing happened with astrophysicist Jim McKinney. You can hear him over at YouTube. He's talking about this, and then bingo, he switched the story. I mean, come on, he had PDFs out there and all, and seeds and what to do, and how these things turn to comets when they get here, and suddenly.
Yeah, well.
So
when someone starts telling me they flew out into space and blew a planet up, and they sucked the energy out of it, I mean, that was enough for me. I just started putting my finger down my throat and going.
I think it was enough for everybody, though. I mean, anybody in this community who's well aware of what's going on and has had all the information from so many different sources,
exactly.
you know how to call
bull. Harebrained Karen sitting there in the other window, nodding her head like, yep.
Well, I have learned.
Us two idiots here just running this crap down your throat. I'm sorry. I come out here with facts, people. I don't come out here with fairy tales. I don't have any wings. I don't fly around the planet and suck energy out of anybody.
I stopped watching a good while back the videos on Planet X and what have you, the ones that are made really good with all the great graphics and everything. I stopped, and I prefer watching people like Scott and Steve and Jeff P. Because they're down, they're real people.
Right.
The others are
they're
just
trying
too,
to get the information out there for the
people
who really want to know. I mean, and if you don't want to know this, that's fine. That's your prerogative. There are people out there that have told me, I don't want to hear this, it's too scary or whatever. That's fine. You go walk around your little world of imaginary land, and when it all comes down and you're wondering what the heck's going on, don't say we didn't try to tell you.
Well, here's another really good one to watch. It's called Skywatch Media News. The guy is really, really brilliant. He precisely and verbally communicates with every one of us. He does his YouTube videos.
From Australia, right?
No. This guy's from the United States. It's called Skywatch Media News. Really, really good, solid information to watch. You know what? I'll post it in the chat, as a matter of fact. So if anybody's interested, they can follow him. I've been following him for quite a while.
I know the guy from Australia good too. And
yeah,
I
Matt Rogers, he's terrific.
Him.
Yeah, Matt Rogers, he's terrific.
Matt Rogers,
definitely,
that's right.
Definitely follow him. I'm going to go ahead and post this in the chat.
And I don't want to set dates. There's been people that have been on my show that said it's going to happen next spring. There's people that are saying it's going to happen in October. I have no idea when it's going to happen, but I do feel that it is going to happen. I mean, I've seen a lot of compelling photos. Like I said, I'm going to be interviewing Dawn Hall in a couple weeks here, and she just sent me some photos, and she's got one hell of a camera, infrared camera. She's got some excellent photos, and the thing is, Dawn is targeted. And it was a couple years ago when I interviewed her, and she talked about her targeting, and she had her elderly mother living with her, and you know who targets her? The men in black. These people in these black crown Victorians with the dark suits and the dark sunglasses, and they actually ran her off the road when she was trying to take her mother to the doctors. And her mother was so scared that she told her, Dawn, please stop taking these pictures and showing everybody this. They're going to kill you. But, Dawn, she ain't going to stop. And I told her, Dawn, you need to gather your pictures up and do an interview with me because you got some great new photos and we need to get this out there. So, and I said, you're not afraid about being targeted again, are you? And she said, woohoo, let's do it. So that would be a good interview.
And I think it would be a terrific interview. I can't wait to hear that one. I just want to let everybody know I did post that in the chat. I'm guest 2 in the chat, so if anybody's interested, I suggest you archive that or put that on your channel, subscription channel on YouTube. I think you'll find it. This guy's really, really spot on, brilliant. And the other thing I was going to say, BB, was that Dr. David Jacobs talks about the Men in Black, but even more so, really came out with Bud Hopkins with these guys, these Men in Black, basically stating that these guys are basically like hybrids. They kind of work for our government, but then they work for their affiliates above, so to speak, in their integration into our society. And I'm not really sure how this whole thing is supposed to work out. I mean, David Jacobs hasn't been real clear on this, but the idea is that they're trying to integrate into our society. Okay, is it because we're going through these planetary changes? Is the atmosphere actually going to change so drastically that they will be able to adapt physically and biologically to the planet, and maybe we are not going to be so sustainable on the planet? I mean, there's so many questions when it comes to that type of thing.
They want to take the planet over. Phil Snyder says I think that's part of why they want the population reduced. Because if there's too many of us, they can't, people will fight back. But if there's not hardly any of us and there's more of them, they can take control, especially if they've got us sick and infiltrated with all this mind technology. I think part of why they don't want shows like mine and Scott's and Steve's and even talking about the targeting and the technology is because they don't want the population to wake up. They want to keep them asleep because then when the event happens, they're going to walk around like, what? I have no clue what's going on. But if you're awake and you're educated, then there's more of a chance of battling this whole thing through, isn't there?
Yeah, no disagreement there. And they'll be fighting a lot smaller force for us who are awakened, which, again, kind of falls in line with the whole Georgia Guidestone thing. I mean, their top priority is don't let humanity grow over 500 million. So has this been their plan all along? There's a certain amount of us who are awakened, and then we're the ones who are going to have to deal with everything that follows after the event, after these hybrids come down. I mean, and let's not forget that, they still do have superior intellect and mental telepathy or a telepathic ability. So what's to stop them from manipulating us all over again? So is that part of the plan? I mean, there's just so many unanswered questions in this whole
the thing is,
thought
a lot of
process.
people are afraid when they hear, they can talk to you in your head. Like, for instance, the guy who just mowed everybody down in New York City. When he got out of his car and started running, and they asked him, why did you do that? He said that he was hearing voices in his head. Well, don't you think that if he knew the technology that they have to do that, and that he didn't have to be afraid because he was afraid, these voices were telling him to do all this stuff. If he would have knew where all this was coming from, maybe he wouldn't have did that.
Yeah,
maybe he wouldn't have gotten a panic and started freaking out and, let them get control of them. I don't know. All I know is people need to know that this technology's out there, and if they start having this stuff happening to them, not to get into the fear mode. And that's one of the things, too, that a lot of people say, oh, you guys are just out here fear-mongering everybody.
Right,
No, we're not fear-mongering you. We're trying to educate you, to let you know that what's going on, what they're doing to humanity, the technology that they have that they can use on us. Now, you can just lay down and be a sheeple and say, oh, I don't care, what are you going to do about it, they got so much over us, blah, blah, blah. Or you can be like me. Stand up, pull your bootstraps up, and say, you know what? Go ahead. Take me out. But I'm not going to lay down and take it the way you want to give it to me. I'm going out swinging.
I'm in total agreement with you when it comes to that, and everybody has their particular situation that they're living through. There's no question about it. But what you mentioned earlier just made me think of something that, the reason that they use fear tactics is because it triggers emotional responses. It triggers that emotional response, like when you were happy and those endorphins kick in, you feel that overwhelming sense of love and joy. Well, those fear responses trigger those same endorphins to put you in a state of
panic.
So it does the same exact thing. So they use the constant agenda of fear to keep everybody localized in their little bubble of, I want to run and hide, and if I don't speak out, the bad guys won't come and get me. And the reality is that you've already been gotten. You need to break out of that shell, stop living in fear. The moment you stop living in fear, you start living in freedom. And that's what this is all about. This is what you do every Friday night, is tell people stop living in fear. Wake up, shake the nonsense off, and start living in reality.
Well, and the thing is, Robert, and I know this from being targeted, and this is one of the first things they do to a target, is they bombard the target with foot soldiers, and they make you think someone's out to kill you. They do all these things on you, making you think someone's trying to kill me. I know they did it to me. And they get you so scared that you don't know what you're doing. And let me tell you, when you're in that mode of fear, you don't think rationally, you make mistakes, and you make bad judgment calls. And that's exactly what they want to do to this planet. They want to ravish us with fear so that we aren't thinking straight enough to make good judgment calls. So the first thing that everybody out there needs to do is, if all hell breaks loose, don't be afraid. Pull that inner courage up and know that you have your angels around you and God above watching over you no matter what happens. What do you have to fear? And just deal with whatever's put on your plate.
Now, like you said, Badbaby, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, do what you got to do, help other human beings, because that's what we're all here to do at this time, is help other human beings get through the event or events that we're going through, whether slowly or quickly. Think about it. Look at the massive flooding that has been happening worldwide. And I can't say this unequivocally, but I sure hope that a lot of people are coming together as communities and helping each other out instead of, pushing each other aside, saying, I want mine and I don't care what happens to you. That is the degradation of the human spirit, what we are morally and to make our convictions come through as human beings to say we're better than this and we're going to survive this together as communities as to more of a Mad Max society, which what have they done through Hollywood, pushed this stuff down our throat
right.
Day in and day out. The Mad Max society, the lone warrior, the lone wolf, the lone hero. That's all nonsense because in reality, we need each other as human beings to survive in a very critical situation, giving or taking at any point that we have seen up until now. Floods, volcanoes, earthquakes. Human beings need human beings in order to survive. That's
right.
just the basic premise of humanity.
That's one of the reasons why I'm so proud of Steve wanting to do the Thrive Conference, because in the Thrive Conference, we are going to cover so many different things. We're going to have the guest speakers talk about what's coming in, and then we're also going to talk about how to deal with what's coming in. We're going to talk about when we feel it would be a good time to bust out and get into a safe zone, and how we have to be there. One of the main things we're going to talk about is how we have to get together as a community and not be fighting over this is mine, because people are going to get into a panic. That. Look at how they did with Hurricane Katrina, grabbing things from each other, busted into the stores, mine, Right, well, that mentality has to be gone. It has to be, I'm going to share with you, and I will help you. Otherwise, humanity isn't going to make it, people.
You got no argument from me. I absolutely agree 100% with every word you just said. We've got to pull together. Especially with Katrina, and that was like a beta test, if you ask me. Those levees were meant to fail, so they collapsed. Louisiana was flooded, basically, and you had cops breaking into the stores, right? I remember those stories, breaking into old women's houses, knocking them on the floors. I'm fine, I'm okay. The old woman had a gun. What did they do? They broke into her house. This 75, 80-year-old woman, however old she was, knocking her to the ground, almost, killing her, because she was telling these so-called peace officers, what they used to be called, but now they're just thugs, breaking down doors and basically, looting and intruding into this woman's home.
Right.
When you get
have people that were in a caring and helping mentality, and I'll give you an example. There was this apartment complex that had a lot of elderly seniors. They had oxygen tanks and wheelchairs, and it was so hot and flooding in those apartments. And there was one guy, he was a retired Marine, and he helped all these people get up to the roof because they were going to try to get a helicopter to get them out of there. And after a while up on the roof, there was a group of guys that were like thugs, and they were trying to take people's stuff away. They were trying to take the elderly people's medications from them, and this military guy, he protected those elderly people. He said, listen, he pulled a gun on him. He said, you listen, you back off of these people or I'll shoot you. So then he knew that it was getting out of hand. So he finally got a helicopter to land on the roof, and they loaded a couple of them up in the helicopter, but then the helicopter was going through the roof. It was too heavy. So that didn't work. So then he knew that he had to do something because he knew he wasn't going to be able to keep those thugs from attacking those elderly people. So he actually waded over to a garage area, found a boat, hot-wired it, and started loading these people up on a boat and taking them to safety.
That's incredible. That's the true spirit of humanity right there.
Right.
It's about helping, kindness, love, care, morality, dignity. I mean, it just seems like, watching all this nonsense, like you brought up earlier, watching all this nonsense with the Comey trial and all this garbage. It's just the theater. It's just the theater to distract people from the real situation of what's happening on the planet. It was obvious why Trump pulled out of this accord in Paris, because he knew it's nothing but bogus science. He knows what's really going on. But do you think this man, who they've been attacking left and right on every single word he says, that if he were to come out like this senator did, a couple of weeks ago and say, by the way, we have, a binary solar system that's coming through, because all solar systems are binary or trinary, coming through, and it's going to wreak a lot of havoc on the planet. And guess what? A lot of you aren't going to make it. What would happen to most of the people on the planet? Everybody would stop working. Everybody would stop producing. Everybody would look to, save their own hide instead of working together as human beings to say, okay, we're going to make the very best of this. We're going to all work together as one, and I'll use this phrase because it's the only way I can really, make sense of it, like an ant hive. Think about it, there's the queen, right? And then you have all the other ants, and they all work together for a specific goal, okay, to make the community thrive. Well, we're not like that at all. It's me,
we're going to have to be a community. We're going to have to be a survival community.
Right.
And it's going to have to be a loving community, not a hateful arguing. The arguing's got to go out the window.
Well, 100% correct.
Or it's not going to work. And that's exactly the control that man got up on that roof, saying that you aren't going to do this. He stopped the violence. And he, and you know what? When he started loading those people in the boat, the guys that were attacking these elderly people were helping him load these people in the boat. So he changed their perspective of thinking. And this is why it's vital that people listen, or if you can't go to the Thrive Conference, try to buy a ticket to listen in through the computer and participate that way, because if you do survive, there's going to be a lot of helpful tips on how to deal with it, and we need leaders out there. We need people that are going to know how to get through this crisis and be educated on it, and that's what we're trying to do right now, is get some leaders out there, get some people that, well, I learned all about this through the Thrive Conference, and you know what, I might not be physically capable of doing a lot of things, but I can give you some knowledge.
Oh, and that makes perfect sense to me, exactly what you said. But here's a caveat to what you just said. All of us putting out this information basically puts us in and I don't mean to be bragful or boastful in any way when I say this, puts us in a leadership position simply because we were awake and aware of what was taking place. Now, the secondary part of that is to be able to put, groups of people together who can create, build. You need doctors. You need, you're going to need people who know how to farm. You're going to need people, and I'm not just saying as individuals that they only do one thing. They're going to be multitasking, as the common word used today, right? You're going to have to be able to do all kinds of things. And you're going to have to be able to produce all kinds of things when needed and be ready, available to do those things in order for our communities to, restart, recreate our society. But The difference is recreate our society in the way we want to see it through love and compassion and consciousness and morality and spirituality. Because the society we live in now is controlled by a bunch of oligarchs who have nothing but contempt and hatred for all of us. They've called us useless eaters for, the better part of 70 years. So their old system, their old paradigm is coming to an end. They know this, and they're all fearing for their lives. And the cherry on top of the cake is that they can't stop physically what's coming, and they can't stop mentally and morally what is coming from all of us, because we have had enough of this system of corruption. So, there's an old saying, when an idea's time has come, there is no standing army on the planet that can stop it. And that's a fact. This is what's happening. This is what we're witnessing. And I'll tell you, it's a great time to be alive, because we are all witness to this incredible change that we're going through.
Yeah, it is a great time to be alive. They say that, I have heard that the people that are on the planet right now were chosen to be here at this time.
That's absolutely correct.
So I don't know whether I was chosen to be here at this time, but I do know that I quit doing my shows a while back for about a year and a half, and I was told in my dream that I had to come back out here, and I did not want to come back out here, people. I was devastated, crying, saying, please, no, don't make me do that. They hurt me. They target me worse, and the Lord said, I'm asking you to do it for me. And I had no idea why, but then the more I started delving into the corruption and what was going on, I was led to this path, and now it all makes sense. Now that we're coming down to what I know about what's happening and what I've been told that my part is in on it, it makes sense why I was egged on to come back here. So hopefully I'll still be around for a while,
Well, the best part about this, and you and I have shared this conversation, the best part of this is that, the soul is eternal. It goes on forever. However anybody chooses to look at oneself, consciousness is always alive. It never dies. It's never destroyed. It is simply you. Your consciousness is your consciousness, and it goes on forever.
And I'm a firm believer that when you leave, I mean, just like when the doctor the other day said to me, well, it's not good for you to wait till September, and, you could die. Right. And I said, hey, I have no fear of dying. I feel my name's written in the book, and my name's in the book, buddy. When I get up there, my name's in the book. I'm a happy camper.
There you go. Exactly.
I have nothing. He's just looking at me like, oh, you're not afraid? Well, no, are you? Well, if you're afraid, then you don't have your house in order.
And why are people afraid? Because they've been distorted into this illusion of this materialistic system of existence that it's just one time around. This is it. Get everything you can.
When you leave, your job's done. You've completed your mission.
Exactly. And then you go on to your next one. Exactly. Exactly.
From what I'm seeing in all these near-death experience stories that I'm researching, it's just another door that opens and a new beginning.
You nailed it.
Hey, I'm game. Roll the dice.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, and there's nothing to fear. It's just transition. That's all it is. Nothing is ever destroyed. Nothing ever dies. It just transitions. That's all it is. It's transition point to transition point because, And
here we go again with the fear thing. Are you catching that? Always bringing up the fear thing. Aren't you afraid to die?
Right.
Aren't you afraid that you might not make it till September?
Right. I sit here and welcome it,
and that's
the thing.
Aren't you afraid I might not pay this bill?
Right. That's what they're really afraid of. That's what they're really afraid of. And that's the lowest fear form there is.
That's it. Let's get down to the brass tacks. Aren't you afraid I don't have money?
And that's it. They go, "Oh my God, I can't make my Porsche payment this month." Uh-oh.
Yeah, well, whatever.
Right? It's the materialism. It's entrenched and ingrained in everybody. And look, don't get me wrong when I say this. We need money to live. This is how our society has been based on for thousands and thousands of years. Okay, this is how we transact our livelihood here on this planet. But what I'm talking about is the just egregious forms of wealth that has been stolen from everybody on the planet to make 1% of the people extremely rich and the rest of us poor. And you can all see it around you. All you have to do is just read the articles that come out on a daily basis. There's 90 or 100 million people out of work. Real unemployment numbers are 23%. And this is not just in the United States, it's worldwide. Bubbles are blowing up everywhere. People are sick and tired of being sick and tired. They just want a decent life. They want to be happy in the individual little world. And yet they want to take that away as well. And this is why all these changes are coming. This is part of that process of the great, the great equalizer coming in to justify reality. And especially for the ones on top.
Day. I got told off the other day for being kind to a homeless person.
Oh, God, yeah, right? Yeah, to be kind to a homeless person,
he was sitting on the sidewalk at the strip mall, and you could tell it was cold, raining, and you could tell he was cold, and, and you could just see he was tired. He had a backpack sitting next to him. He had his hood up, and he was holding a cardboard sign that said, "I'm hungry." My heart just broke, So I had just gone to the grocery store. I didn't have a lot, but I bought a few things. And when they gave me my change, I had $4 and I think 38 cents left, something like that. That's all I have for the rest of the month, $4.38. So I said, well, I don't care. I don't need the $4. So I went over to Taco Bell and I bought a couple burritos and got an ice water, and I drove back over there and I pulled up to the curb and I tooted my horn and I said, "Hey, sweetie, come over here." And he got up. His face just lit right up. And he came running over to my truck, and I said, "Here," I said, "it's not much, but here's something for you to eat." And, "Oh, my God, thank you. Thank you. God bless you." He kept saying, "God bless you." I said, "No, God bless you, sweetie." And this guy walking by gave me the dirtiest look, and he called me a dumb ASS. And he just shook his head like he was so disgusted with me for giving that poor kid a couple burritos.
Well, because the reality is he's disgusted with himself. And that's the truth. Because whatever you think about someone else is what you're really thinking about yourself. And the people don't rarely ever want to admit that. But when you look at yourself square in the face, stare in the mirror and say, "Who am I?" You face a reality unlike you've ever faced, because if you really speak truth about yourself, you have to look at yourself, because in the end, when you transition, you're the only one who's going to judge you. It's you yourself. You are judging yourself. That's it. And you're going to say to yourself, was I a piece of this, or was I a good, decent person? That's it.
The thing that I don't understand, and this is what puzzles me, why does it bother somebody else what I do? If I want to give that kid a $100 bill, that's my business.
Absolutely.
Not yours.
That's right.
And so don't walk past me and give me dirty looks and try to make me feel bad for being the person that I am.
Well, they're passing judgment on you because they're passing judgment on you when they shouldn't be passing judgment on anyone or anything. You know me, BB.
Well, not only on me, but on that poor kid.
Right.
I mean,
but
they don't know his story. Who knows?
No,
Maybe
not-
he was
and
abused as a child and his parents threw him out. Maybe they won't hire him at McDonald's because he's homeless and can't bathe. They don't
Right.
know his story.
Exactly. And my point is, I was just going to simply say that, I'm not religious in any way. I'm very, very spiritual, but I'm not religious in any way. But, even Christ said, when was it? When they were sleeping at night and the thief came to steal, one of his disciples' blankets. And one of his disciples saw this, and he put up an argument and a struggle. And he says, "Look, let him have it. It's obvious he needs it. You don't need it. Let him have it because it's something he needs." The point is to that story is that when you have someone in need and is looking for, some sort of relief from their dire situation, let them have it, because it's not that important. The importance should be put on in who you are, what you are about, your consciousness, your morality, your own self spiritual advancement. This is the problem that so many people have. They pass judgment on other people with no good reason, just simply because they can. And that's more disturbing to me than anything. How can you pass judgment on somebody when you know nothing about them? It doesn't matter what they are, what they look like, if they're dirty, if they're clean, if whatever they are, it doesn't matter.
Right, they're still a human being.
That's right.
And when I handed that food to that kid, and I call him a kid, to me, he's a kid because he was in his 20s, I mean, he just looked like he wanted to cry, and I'm sure he gulped that food down. I could tell he was hungry. The burritos were warm, and you could see that he just wanted to warm his hands up on them. And my heart just broke. I felt bad having to drive away and leave him there.
Right. Right. No, I understand. I mean, look, it's and this is kind of selfish in a way too. I mean, I know how good it makes me feel to give something to somebody who needs something, to watch the expression of it on their face, and I feel guilty about it because I feel all warm and fuzzy sometimes when I do that. But it's just human nature to want to feel good about doing something good for somebody else, but it's subhuman to, watch somebody suffer and, and be nasty and think of all kind of nasty, rotten things in your mind about why that person's in that position in their life. I'll tell you what, I'll take that little bit of guilt of feeling good about doing something good for somebody else than that nasty, rotten, immoral thought process of, how you feel so superior to somebody when you see them down and out on their luck and you're sitting in your car, just
warm and cozy.
Not even looking at them like they're subhuman, like they're
and
disgusting
the thing is,
or
I
something.
hadn't had my lunch. I could have ate that myself and just
Sure.
drove past them. But you know what? I had bread and cheese and butter in my grocery bag, and so I came home and made a grilled cheese.
Exactly.
I mean, I had something to eat, to come home and make something to eat. So, this is exactly what I'm talking about, how we are going to have to be when this event happens. We aren't going to be, we can't be, I got this much food and it's all for me, me, me. It's got to be, I will help you, I will share with you, and what do you have to help my community? Because we're not going to survive. I can't carry firewood in maybe, so maybe you can do the firewood for me, and I'll share my food with you. This is how we're going to survive, people. This is what we have to do. And we have to love each other, not hate each other, not walk by like, you're going to give him your last hamburger. Yeah, sure, I am, and we'll figure out what we're going to eat the next day. That's another thing, what we are going to learn about survival techniques. A lot of people don't know that dandelions make a great salad. There's a dandelion salad. And even the roots of the dandelions can be eaten. Those are also a remedy for cancer. Dandelion roots are a remedy for cancer. So, these are all the things that I've learned throughout the years that I will be a benefit to people as far as, like, if we run out of food. Well, you know what? Did you know you can eat this? Did you know you can eat that? Did you know that you could buy a live trap and trap small animals and put them in a pot and make a pot of soup out of it? I mean, there's a lot of things that you can learn.
100% correct. I love dandelions. They grow wild everywhere, and people think they're weeds. They're not weeds. They're nutritious vegetable, without a question.
You can even make wine out of them.
Absolutely. You got a lot of dandelions.
How to make wine.
You got to squeeze a lot of them, but you definitely can make wine.
Well, we've done it, my dear. We're coming up on the end of the show. We've done 2 hours, and I'm really sorry, you guys, that Scott didn't join us. I guess I'm not worthy anymore.
Oh, stop that now. Come on. Who knows what happened?
Oh, whatever. He's been reading my messages. So, when someone reads your message and chooses not to answer you, what would you think?
Well, I'm gonna say this, that I think as a community of people who are aware and awake to everything that's happening, we all need to come together. There shouldn't be no bickering, no fighting. This is one community, one mind trying to awaken a lot of people who are still asleep.
That's what I've been. I know there's a rift going on there between some of the Planet X YouTubers. Let's put it that way. And
yeah.
I stand neutral. I love them both.
I agree with you.
Take a side, but I guess I'm being judged to take a side. I don't know. But I love them both. I still love them both. They're both welcome to come on my show whenever they want. And, if you want to hate me because I love somebody, then shame on you.
Agreed. I agree. There should be no hate. There should be nothing but love and camaraderie and a community of people who are trying to, make people aware that we're facing some very, very hard times. And, Badbaby, I've said this before. I said it's not the end. It's just a new beginning. It's a transition. This is all it is. It's a transition.
You're right. You're right. Well, I want to thank you for coming on with me tonight. And Huggy Bear, I know you're still on the line. Make sure you get that letter off to Lori Baker, and I will keep you in my prayers and hope that you get into the community. She must have herself muted.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you, Badbaby. As always, I enjoyed being with you. I always enjoy speaking with you because we can always just talk about so many subjects that basically always revolve around the idea of, community, humanity, preparedness, love, integrity. I mean, that's what it's really all about. It really is just about transition and love. And as human beings, we need to love each other and, just project our spiritual reality and awareness to the next level. Because our friends upstairs, and I think I've told you this, that's what they're really waiting for, is for our transition to grow up a little bit more, stop playing with the matches, put them down. And, I think they would open their arms up to us and say, okay, welcome to the galactic community. So, and that would be, like kindergarten for us, and our growing up phase.
Well, if we survive it or whatever, and you're in my area, and it's funny too because I just had a guy over here, and he was helping me with a car that I'm trying to sell. And I was asking him if he knew what an EMP was. No, he didn't know what an EMP was. And I was asking him if he knew about, what you do to survive in case of, I told him what an EMP was, about the electrical grid, and he had no idea that it burned up your car and you wouldn't, gas wouldn't be pumped and there'd be no groceries. And it like blew his mind, everything that I knew, And I said to him, I said, I know how to make your car still work. And he said, how? And I said, well, it burns up a sensor in the brain of the car. And I said, there's a YouTube video where you can go online and look it up, how to fix your computer of your car if you have an EMP attack. And I said, all you do is you go to the junkyard now and you buy those parts and you put them in a Faraday cage, in a Faraday bag. He goes, what's a Faraday bag? So I told him what it was, right? And I said, then after the EMP happens, you take the part out, you replace it, and boom, your car will start up and run. And he goes, you're pretty smart. And I said, no, I just did my homework. And I said, let me tell you something. If an EMP attack or there's some kind of a disaster that happens, I said, you just come here and I'll tell you how to survive it. And you know what he said to me? He looked at me and he said, there'll be a line at your gate.
I love that. I absolutely love that.
And I was like, you're probably right.
And like I said earlier, the people who are aware now, I don't mean to be boastful or bragful. I'll say that once again. It's just that we're aware. Everybody listening to the show is aware, and you're all going to end up being community leaders wherever you're living to help people through the transition. They're going to need to know what to do, how to do it, and when to do it. And that's all. And it's not rocket science. It's just that we've all been paying so much attention and listening to so many people involved in this, real experts, right? Real experts with real knowledge who have basically graced us with their knowledge to say, these are the things you're going to want to do. That's it.
Well, let me give you one more little tip. And this is something he goes, but my truck is only going to drive as long as I have gas, and if there's no way the pumps will turn on, then I won't be able to fill it up. And I said, I know how to do that too.
Exactly. You ever hear of a...
Said, how? I said, well, a bicycle pump that you pump air with? He said, yeah. I said, you take a garden hose and you duct tape it to a bicycle pump. And I said, you know where they put the gas in from the big trucks? You unscrew that, throw the hose down there, pull the pump handle up, and it siphons it up the hose. Then you put the hose in the can and push the pump down, and it pushes the gas back out.
Absolutely.
And he goes, how do you know all this? I said, I've been studying survival techniques for years. And so then I said, that's what a lot of my shows are about, about what's going to happen and some things to do and blah, blah, blah. So, this guy knew nothing about me doing these shows. So he stops, and I always open the gate for people to pull out, and then I shut the gate after they pull out. So I'm standing there holding the gate for him to pull out, and he stops, and he puts his window down, and he says, how do I find your shows again?
That's wonderful.
I told him, and I said, if there's something you need to ask me, just ring me on the phone, and I'll tell you how to look some stuff up.
Exactly. Wonderful. Well, again, you're just, you're a brilliant woman out here doing this every night now for how many, 20 years? I mean, my God, incredible. Just trying to help people, trying to help humanity. And there's no greater gift than you can give is to help another human being, Badbaby. I'm serious. There is no greater gift of the giving of yourself. And that's one of Christ's teachings, the giving of yourself to another human being. Period.
And, I always ask the Lord, too, every day. I say, Lord, forgive me for anything that I've done that's displeasing to you, and please, please make me more like you. I just want to be like you. I want to be loving, caring, and giving, and I don't want to be anything but more of you. And the more we ask for him to come in us and be more like him, the more humanity will be better.
I agree. I think the only thing Christ ever asked of us, or God, source, however you want to look at it, I think the only thing he or it or they or however you want to look at it, the only thing they asked of us is to be human. Because in order to be human, you have to learn, and I think that's the progression of change and transition. In order to learn, you have to go through that process of being in this skin and many other skins, and how God knows how many other skins we have to go through, meaning, a physical,
right,
biological entity on this plane and many other planes. It's mind-boggling when I sit there and think about it, and I try and, dissect this whole thought process. It gives me such a headache that the expansive thought process you put into something like that is mind-boggling, because of what nature is and why nature was created and what makes nature function. You can use that word, God, source, whatever, universe, but why does it function? What is the cause of that spark, ignition of life? Is it a single entity? Are there multiple entities? I mean, when I think about these things, it's like, okay, there's a molecule, okay, on the tip of my finger, where there's probably, 100,000 molecules. I'm not talking about atoms, but just 100,000 molecules on the tip of my finger. Well, each one of those molecules, creates, separates, divides, and creates more. That molecule, finds its, entry into existence. It lives its life and then dies, and then another one's created. Yet each one is an exact replica of itself, but with its own thought process, yet still adhered to a single goal. Well, my God, if you think our universe is one molecule, and all the billions and hundreds of trillions of billions squared of atoms that live within that universal bubble, is that just one molecule on the tip of a finger of some source or God that is trying to realize itself that I'm looking?
Well, what it all boils down to is,
it's crazy,
we
right?
just got to learn to be love.
Oh yeah, without a question.
And sometimes it takes a lifetime for someone to learn that. A lot of people have had a rough childhood or a rough life, and they have a lot of anger, and they take their anger out on society or other people.
Sure.
But all that does is spread more anger and more hate. And
absolutely.
We just have to change that and just love one another. And on that note, we're going to call it a night, folks. God, I don't even know. I think Robert Evans is on next week, but I'm not sure.
I look forward to hearing him. Badbaby, thank you so much. I always enjoy being with you and your and all your listeners, and and I love calling in on your show, sweetheart.
Thank you so much, honey, for coming out and filling in tonight. It made it a little bit easier for me.
It was my pleasure. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you, and thank everybody for joining me tonight.